Good morning and welcome to the program. I'm Chris McKay. My guest this morning is Sid Dinsdale, and he's chairman of the board for Pinnacle Bank. He's also running for U.S. Senate. He's our U.S. Senate candidate running as a Republican, and three others are in the race. Sid, it's so good to meet you. Good to have you in the studio. You're fun to talk to, by the way.
Well, thank you, Chris.
If you see Sid out and about, get him chatting. He's a good,
Chris,
thank you. Chit-chatter.
I just grew up 30 miles from here, so this is pretty close to home.
So who you want to say hi to on the radio?
Well, I probably should say hi to Janet in the Branding Iron Cafe and
Okay.
John, because they were so nice to me.
Okay. And, of course, Tom is the cousin of Sid Dinsdale.
Right.
Do you hang out with Tom a lot?
Well, not a lot, because he lives here and I live in Elkhorn, but I buy a lot of vehicles from him, it seems like.
I bet you do.
I'm driving a Suburban around right now that
Cool.
he sold me.
So what are your platforms? Why run for U.S. Senate?
Well, that's a good question, Chris. But like so many Americans, I'm just really frustrated. I guess my talk about that is the federal government just has way overreached what the intent ever was for federal government. Seems like we have central planning now that I read about in Palmer High School. It was only the Soviet Union then, and now we've got Obamacare, and I'm really concerned education's the next target. We have people that are probably trying to do the right things in their minds, but, we Americans, we get along just fine. We don't need that much government help.
On the air this morning, Sid Dinsdale, and he's running for U.S. Senate, a Republican running. What's your past like? Why vote for Sid?
Well, I've been in business for 37 years, community banking, still involved with agriculture with my brother and cattle feeding and farming, and so I know how to change an irrigation tube. I've got farming in my blood, too. That's probably like radio, Chris. You can't quite get it out of your system, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's important that I've got that
So are you at the
background.
feedlot on horseback?
No, I'm not.
No,
because
he's not at the feedlot on horseback.
I was yesterday.
See, we didn't prep that at all.
That's right. I was with Ivy and Alvy, I should say, and his horse and his dog, sheepdog. But anyway, I've got a diverse background from I can put on my work boots or I can put on my dress shoes and deal in the financial world, too. So everybody knows that financially America's got a lot of challenges, and I'd like to address that, too. And I guess I want to say that to those out there that say, what the heck, one guy, and I agree, I'm just one man, but I've found in my business career the most opportune times for change are when there's turmoil. And by golly, we got turmoil back there now, and everybody's paying attention, which is a good thing. I'm trying to look at this glass half full. So now is the time to make change. We've got a president, and I'm a Republican, but I still would support a president if he was a great leader. But Mr. Obama, you don't check out when there's problems. You provide leadership, and that's what I've done in my career. And we really, really need leadership, and we've got no leadership back there now, in my opinion, from the president on down particularly.
With the partial government shutdown, many people are calling on our politicians to give back their furlough pay. What do you think? What would you do in that situation?
Well, I would probably not take pay either. I mean, you're hiring us to go do a job back there, not to close the government. So I would probably give mine back too. I'm not back there, so I'm not privy to all those negotiations.
Right.
But there's other big things, the debt ceiling, and how long can we rule without a budget? For heaven's sakes, we just got to have some things change. And I think it was Mr. Buffett, and I hope I'm not misquoting him, said that one of the first things he'd do is say, you don't get paid unless you pass a budget. And things like that. I mean, look at this Obamacare. It applies to everybody except Congress, and then he gives a one-year exemption to businesses. But the rest of us folks out here, we're supposed to comply with that. It's just time after time, there's no leadership or bad leadership.
You also have something to say about term limits.
Yeah. Well, I pledged to only serve 2 terms. As I researched our history before I did this, there are a couple things became very apparent. The one was leadership. Ben Franklin, our Constitutional Convention in 1786 was in real trouble, is about to dissolve, and everybody's going to get on their horse and ride home to never return. When he said, men at that time, all men, let's take a three-day time out here. You go back to your wives, your families, go to church, pray about it, think about it, and come back. And they came back and they got her done. I mean, that was an example of leadership. But you mentioned term limits. You vote different if you're back there for a fixed amount of time, which we're supposed to be citizen legislators, and that's what I want to be, instead of you're back there for a long, wonderful career, So I set my career aside to do this. I've had one great career, and I'll do this, but just for a fixed amount of time, 2 terms.
Sid Dinsdale running for U.S. Senate on this morning's program. It's been great to meet you, and we'll hope you swing through again here in Grand Island.
Thank you very much, Chris. And it's a Republican primary, and the vote date is May 13th. Appreciate it very much.